Hello, people of the internet. It's Eclipse, and I am not dead. Anyway, here's Melting Skies Chapter 2.
I think Minnow should be it.
Marble sneered to the left of her.
Yeah, it's always more fun when she can't find us right away.
Roxo teased to her right.
Now, pups, remember what I told you.
Hersha's voice echoed from a short distance away.
Mama's right.
A determined growl sounded just in front of Minnow.
It isn't fair if we play hide and seek. Minnow will always lose. Let's play a game that all of us can play.
Minnow smiled at Zadori's comment.
But all we play is either bat and moth or can you guess the wolf. Those games are so boring, and Minnow always wins.
Marble complained.
Well, what if we play a round of Can You Guess the Wolf, and then we play hide and seek? Zadori offered. Only if we play hide and seek first,
Roxo demanded.
That's all right with me,
Minnow murmured shyly.
Great! I'll be first.
The sound of Zadori's paws scrambling towards a hollow tree led Minnow to search for a hiding spot, each paw step carefully plotted. It was very kind of Zadori to volunteer to go first, since their siblings would have no doubt forced Minnow to be it otherwise. The past few months had been a shaky start to Minnow's life. Her biological mother never visited, and she never knew her father, but Hersha's words of encouragement and her sweet scent left the pup hopeful. Other members of the pack, especially Oni and the other queens in the den, always had a softness to their voice when speaking to her. It made her feel special and safe, but also like they thought she couldn't take care of herself. Her siblings were a mix when it came to support. Usually when another pack member hurt the blind pup's feelings, both Hersha and her siblings would protect her. But when it came to just them, sometimes she felt below them, even though she was technically older than them. It took her a while to realize that she was supposed to be able to do more with her senses than just hear, smell, taste, and touch. If no one had told her, she would have assumed the dark swirls that almost entirely swallowed up her warped vision all the time were normal. She could see shapes, but she couldn't make sense of any of them. Plus, many of them were blocked by dark spots, and she had a hard time differentiating colors. She couldn't tell the sky from the ground, making what limited eyesight she had completely useless. She instead relied on her sense of hearing and smell to identify her immediate surroundings, though that often left her at a disadvantage.
Pfft, you'll never find a spot like that,
Roxo whispered teasingly right next to Minnow's ear as Zadori started thumping her tail against the ground in wait, counting the seconds.
Sorry, Zadori normally hides with me,
Minnow whimpered, at least when I'm not it.
Here, you can hide with me,
Marble murmured reassuringly as she helped guide Minnow into a small patch of grass, while Roxo's scent disappeared. Minnow felt the odd pull of gravity as they went downhill a bit, then under something, if the lack of warmth on her pelt was any indicator.
This is my secret spot,
Marble giggled.
Don't tell anyone. Not like you'll be able to tell where it is, Minnow,
she giggled again. After some time spent in silence, Minnow could hear Roxo squeak as Zadori shouted victoriously from a distance away, upwards, behind them and to the right.
Hey, I think she found Roxo,
Minnow murmured to Marble, just to find that the warm body that was next to her had vanished, as if the pup had been erased from existence, with only a slight wind against Minnow's face to give any indication where she went.
Marble?
The blind pup started to panic, feeling around for her sister with her paws. came an urgent whisper that made the pup jump. She spun around. Marble, what are you doing? The scared youngling asked, trembling. A strange scent filled her nose, something she had never smelled before. Whatever was in front of her was a stranger. It's me, Minnow. The oddly familiar voice continued to taunt. I haven't forgotten what you did, Minnow, and I haven't forgiven it. Wait, you're not Marble. Who are you? What are you doing? This isn't fun. Minnow was cut off as she heard and felt the force of something large coming off the ground. The dirt before her giving a single bounce as energy was released into the air, before stabbing into the soil with a loud thump just in front of her hiding spot, making the ground shake again. Something big had just leapt at her. The horrible scent flooded her nose as she felt wind begin to stir. Something lurched forward, the force of the creature making her freeze as wind whipped around her from its movement. Before she could process what was even in front of her, the air around her neck suddenly grew jagged and solid and dug into her on either side, and she felt a pain in her stomach as something pushed up against it. Wait, not against it, into it. She was being bitten and clawed, but by what? Why was this happening to her? She tried to open her mouth to call for help, but nothing came out. Her throat was closed against her will. The pain bloomed from her stomach and spread all over her body, warmth unbearably stinging. She could no longer feel the ground beneath her, the claws and teeth digging in deeper as all of her weight was forced downward into them. Then the pain went away. Minnow's sight went from a garbled mess to clearly colored and shaded shapes, making her wince as throbbing pounded in her head. Is this what her siblings called colors? A moment later, her depth perception seeped in just for her to realize she was several branches above the ground, floating in the air. As her sight focused, she looked below her and saw what she had just met moments before. To her horror, she saw her own lifeless corpse hanging from the claws of a large, misty figure with haunting glowing eyes and mouth. She didn't know how, but she could tell it was her limp corpse dangling in the air. Despite her terror, she tried to take in all she could, feeling in her gut that this wouldn't last. The creature wasn't moving, and neither was that thing in the air. Is that what her packmates called birds? Her siblings told her that she had black fur and orange eyes. Minnow looked closer and addressed the very dominant color that made up her fur, and the blazing color that filled her dead eyes. Her family had also told her that she had white pupils, different to the black pupils most wolves have. That must mean that the creature she had met was black with white eyes, according to the comparison to their pupils. As the shock of her situation started to leave her, she familiarized herself with other colors and started to memorize each one. Green was the tops of the trees that surrounded them. Yellow was the grass that she rolled around in every day with that sweet scent. Brown were the trunks of the trees that she sometimes crashed into. Orange was her eyes, black was the creature, white was her pupils, red was the liquid sprayed all over the ground underneath where her carcass was being skewered. Blue was the sky Minnow's siblings always said was so beautiful, and now she knew why. Gray, pink, purple. Minnow knew all the colors now, almost as if they were best friends of hers. In the same breath that terror filled her, peace also filled her. It was the most terrifying thing she had ever seen, but also the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. As moments passed, she realized she was able to move freely through the air, over the heads of her frozen packmates as they did their daily duties around the camp, just several paces away from where she was. If she could guess, they couldn't see or hear the scuffle she was just in. She could see two really small wolves, pups, in the middle of the clearing, up and right from where she and Marble had been. A female, that must be Zadori, with a white and yellow pelt and brown eyes, walking alongside who she assumed was Roxo, his fur a dark gray as his dark blue eyes scanned in pursuit of winning hide-and-seek. Curious, she looked into what she knew was the nursery based on its positioning. Was that brown and cream wolf Hersha? The queen she had been calling mother. And the pregnant, pale and yellow wolf next to her, was that her aunt, Lavari? She returned to where her own dead body was. Minnow saw tufts of brown and gray fur around the mouth of the dread-inducing creature. It had its claws stabbed through her body, holding her limp form over its gaping maw, ready to eat her. While forcing herself to look closer at the scene, she saw a little overhang where she had been before being attacked. She could tell because some of her black fur was there, as well as some gray and brown fur. She suddenly felt cold as guilt and grief pooled in her belly. The fur around the creature's mouth must have belonged to Marble. Her sister was gone. Even though she knew she was dead, she couldn't help but feel guilty that Marble had left before her. Why was she seeing this now? Why was time frozen? What did she have to do? Why was this creature here? Minnow suddenly found herself in what she now knew was the overhang. Her feet were on the ground. The sun wasn't touching her pelt. It's where she had been almost before the air around her became hostile. She wasn't laying lifeless on the ground either. No pain. From the faint breeze starting up and the shake of the ground, the scent getting stronger again, the thing had just leapt at her, again. She had been sent back in time. Except now, she knew what was going to happen. She wouldn't let it. She couldn't. It's not what was supposed to happen. Without hesitation, she turned and scrambled up the small brown cliff, hitting her muzzle on it as she gauged how steep it was, and leapt through those purple bushes she had seen, bursting through into the clearing just before she could be hit again. "Help!" she shrieked, every hair on end. "There's something down there!"
What? What is it?
She heard the strong tone of their beta, Petrum, as a collection of voices all got lost in a sea of panic. The wind picked up around her as Minnow could no longer tell what each individual was saying. They were all so loud, and the wind of everyone around her was pushing in so many directions, she couldn't tell where she was.
"Everyone, quiet."
Oni calmed the raging sea into a gentle, rippling puddle.
"Petrum, if you may."
Of course, Alpha.
The beta mumbled respectfully.
Can I have 2 warriors? Please follow me down the ravine.
A few voices stirred as pause steps filled Minnow's ears, right to left, muffled as they went down the small but steep decline. Then, muffled growls followed by a call she had only heard once before in her lifetime, a call to attack.
There's a snow snare!
Soul snare!
Soon, wind picked up around the small pup as more wolves rushed over the small hill. Her tiny form was pushed to the ground as the raging sea of voices and movements became a river, flowing out of the camp and crashing further away as she could barely make out the sound of her packmates' teeth tearing into flesh, as well as the strict commands of both Petrum and Oni. Minnow, my dear baby, what happened?" Hersha picked up her child by her scruff and carried her back to the nursery. "Marble wanted to show me a good hiding spot," Minnow tried to explain, but was having a hard time finding the words. But she disappeared, and I knew it wanted to kill me. Shh, it's okay, baby. Hersha's sweet scent filled Minnow's nose as she started to calm down. I saw it kill me, she whispered and wiggled further into her adoptive mother's fur. But before Hersha could reply, their mother wolf suddenly shouted out into the clearing.
Zadori! Roxo! Come here at once! We need to stay in the nursery!
The desperateness in her voice dug into the blind pup as she smelled her littermates come into the nursery.
Wait, where's Marble? Minnow, where's Marble?
Hersha started to scream frantically.
Where?
The blind puppy was roughly knocked aside as her adoptive mother rushed out of the den without a proper answer.
Have you seen her? Have you seen my baby?
Minnow shivered as she heard her mom cry out. What did you do to Marble? Roxo growled. I didn't do anything. Minnow trembled. She didn't do anything, Roxo, Zadori murmured. You know you don't have to repeat everything for her, right? Roxo's scent stung her nose as wind started surrounding her again, circling around Minnow with the soft cadence of paw steps crunching in the nesting. How can we trust that you are telling the truth? Now, Roxo, came a low growl. All three stirred and faced Lavari, the other queen who had stayed silent through the argument. How could Minnow have possibly done anything to hurt Marble? Chance is that she was just lured away by the soul snare before it reached Minnow. Now, Lavari normally never spoke, and whenever she did say something, it was for a good reason. Soul snares can lead you away? Minnow felt Roxo's pelt shake against hers as he hid behind her, the sister he was interrogating just moments before. Yes, they call out in a familiar voice, either to confuse you long enough to pounce or to lure you toward them. They never reveal themselves until it's too late. It told me it would never forgive me. Minnow's face started to burn again and turn wet as the hardness came into her chest. It sounded just like Aquamarine. That thing used Aquamarine's voice? Zadori exclaimed. Don't mention that name. Hersha's scent suddenly filled the den and she let out a huff. And don't mention Marble's either, for that matter. No, she can't be. Lavari's soft tone was cut off. I don't want to talk about it right now. I'll tell you all in the morning. The nesting snapped and rustled as Hersha laid down, cueing the pups to snuggle close. Winter was almost over, but that didn't mean it wasn't still cold. But it was my fault, wasn't it, Mama? Minnow grew a cold feeling in her heart. Aquamarine needed your milk too, but I was there. No, don't you ever say that, Hersha growled. Aquamarine was unfortunate, and that's it. You had nothing to do with it. Yeah, Roxo chimed in. If you followed that kind of logic, you'd be blaming yourself for everyone who disappears. And just think, Zadori nuzzled Minnow's side, making her giggle. Aquamarine is in the world of clouds, with all the milk he could ever ask for. That's correct, Zadori. From Hersha's tone, Minnow could tell she was smiling. Marble's with him too, with all the adventure she wants. However, I hope you all live full lives before you see the world of clouds. And I hope that you avoid soul snares and other things that can hurt you. Of course, Mama. The three pups spoke in unison and settled down for the night. Even though her two remaining siblings were sound asleep in a matter of mere moments, Minnow couldn't seem to fall asleep. She wanted to wriggle around, maybe find a more comfortable position, but she kept still, not wanting to wake anyone. My baby, Hersha whispered ever so softly. My poor poor baby. Which one? The one that got killed today? Or the one being accused of dark magic? Lavari's voice replied, even quieter than Minnow's mother. Magic. Oh God, what if it's true? What if I'm not meant to be a mother? Minnow felt the smallest quiver in her mother's belly, too small to wake her littermates. It's just bad luck, Hersha. You can't go blaming yourself just because your pups were born in the middle of winter. Lavari shuffled closer to the distressed queen. What if I lose all of them? Hersha's whimper was barely audible. I doubt that'll happen. Plus, even if it does, you got to trust that it happens for a reason. Minnow could almost feel the warmth in Lavari's heart. The wolf of few words, now showering her mother with reassurance, appeared as a god in Minnow's mind. I'm here for you, Hersha. You're my sister. We survived to adulthood, didn't we? No one said life is easy. I realized that the day you saved me from falling into the river. I know. Her mother sounded so tired, and Minnow felt a sting of pity for her. All she had been trying to do was help raise her children, and she had already lost 2. What if people continue to think that she's a bad omen? I know she's not. Ursa's voice trembled and weaved through the chilly air. As do I, trust me. But Minnow is going to be just fine. Minnow then realized who was being accused of witchcraft. A weird feeling entered her chest that she had never felt before. It made her insides burn, her outsides tense up, and her teeth clench. This must be anger, she realized. She had never been so angry before. I am no witch, she thought to herself. And whatever it takes to prove it, I'll do it. I'm not a bad omen. End of Melting Skies Chapter 2. Let me know what you thought. And I will see you all on the other side. Bye-bye.